What's the most embarrassing NSFW thing that's ever happened to you in public? Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. Thanks. Story 1. Orthopedist walks into the operating room and takes a look at the screen which shows the patient's right leg with multiple fractures. Seconds later, he says out loud, "How the fuck are we going to fix that?" Everyone in the room falls silent and turns their gaze to the orthopedist, and the anesthetizer whispers, "He's in spinal anesthesia." The orthopedist's eyes widen for a moment. He clears his throat and says loudly, "We'll make a leg out of this yet. Scalpel number 10, please." Story 2. When I was 6 years old, I was super skinny. My parents enrolled me in a judo class, and after about a month or so of practice, the parents were all invited to a judo competition. Before things started, one of the instructors was demonstrating a basic flipping someone over the back technique. I was chosen to be the one flipped by the instructor. When the instructor demonstrated the flip, my judo pants went flying off into the spectators, leaving me laying on the mat in just my tightly whities. There was a segment about this black bear that had mange, and they were trying to save it. They shaved all its fur off, and it looked fucking insane. Looked like a monster tbh. Anyways, flash forward to Thanksgiving. My whole family is sitting around a new projector that we hooked up in the living room, sharing funny videos and pictures and having a good ol' haha time. My grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, sisters, uncles, everyone is present. I'm like, "Hey, I got a good one I think you guys will think is interesting." So on the fucking projector in front of my whole family, I typed naked shaved bears into the Google search on an 88 projector. Fucking God, that day haunts me every time I close my eyes at night. Story 5. I was at a gig. The band playing was called Decapitated. One guy I met that night decided to crowd surf me. It went wrong. I began to fall. My glasses flew off into the abyss. He grabbed my t-shirt and it tore in two. Then people tried to catch me by grabbing my jeans, then fell down along with my underwear to my ankles. I was on the floor, blind and naked. So my bestie was also in the show, and he was off stage, waiting with the costume so I could get into the new dress, get it zipped up, and we walk out together. This dress was an open and low neckline, and I could not wear a bra with it. So I was basically nude while changing backstage. That part wasn't too bad, and he was the only one who got the full shot, and he was gay, and we'd known each other 20 years, so it was all good in that aspect. My takeaway with this, no bra. However, he had forgotten to completely hook the sides that required being cinched up. So we go on stage. Everything great. The dinner scene ends up turning into a chase scene with all characters at the table running around chasing each other. I slip in front of the table, hitting the stage and sliding on my stomach, facing the audience. In front of the audience. It was easier not to see my boobs. They came right the hell out. I'm splayed out, and before I realize what's happened, I stand up and see, oh hey. My bestie comes over and covers me, and we get me fixed fairly quickly. The fall, my boob show, and the fix probably happened within 20 seconds total. It just felt like hours. He turns to the audience and says, "Folks, you definitely got your money's worth tonight." Story 7. Opened up my laptop in the school library to do some homework. Turns out I had not closed the porn that I was watching the night before. Didn't have headphones in, so the noise of a chick getting absolutely railed played through the speakers. Story 8. When I was 13, I opened my laptop on a Caltrain, and other people were around me and my family. As soon as I opened it, the screensaver was an NSFW, pretty tame NSFW pic that I set as a screensaver. I immediately shut it closed and turned around to see if anyone saw it. An old lady had a mortified look on her face, but I turned back around fast. Fuck. Repressed memories. Thanks a lot, op. Story 9. When I was like 13, a folklore dance group one was a part of were touring abroad. While in a hotel, I was taking a shower in my room's bathroom when I heard a bunch of giggles from the other side of the door. I thought those were just the other members of the ensemble, all kids like me messing around in the hallway of our room, but when I exited the bathroom, I discovered that they have been peeping on me, all laughing hysterically. You can imagine that's a pretty heavy blow for a teenager, so I burst into tears from rage and betrayal, and the atmosphere in the bus for rest of the road trip was pretty fucking awkward. It was July in Florida, and I had traveled over an hour by truck with no AC and was running around the campus all day. I was soaked with sweat. I knew I started leaking but didn't realize how bad it was as I was already wet and overheated. I couldn't excuse myself because I was with an overbooked advisor. When I was finally able to leave, I couldn't find the bathroom, and I was frantically running around this whole building. I had to go back and ask the receptionist, When I finally found the bathroom, I was able to take stock. My khaki shorts were soaked with blood. I had blood running down my legs and into my shoes. It was so bad that the blood even stained my socks. I knew I left a bloody puddle on the seat I was on, absolutely ruining it. My mom just dropped me off and went back home, so I had to wait over nearly 2 hours in a bathroom stall to find me with new pants. I cried so hard and immediately went home. It was the first day of orientation, and I didn't come back until it was dorm move-in day. It was the most embarrassing thing to happen to me. At least now I look back on it with amusement. Close to my final year, I had another appointment in the office. There was a chair in the waiting room with a very large muddy stain on it. I'm pretty sure it was the chair I sat in. Story 12. Clicked on a link on a school computer in a full classroom. It led to a website that played and watching gay porn full blast out of the speakers with a very NSFW GIF. The website was also unclosable. Story 13. I teach skincare vocational school. My students are adults and was in the office during a planning period making a presentation on how to do a back treatment and thought my opening slide should be a picture of a woman's bare back. So I Google image search bare back on the school computer surrounded by other educators and students. When you're an aesthetics educator, you have to get really creative with your Google searches. Facial is forever spa facial moving forward. Moral of the story is there is always time to put on underwear. You don't need a beard that bad. Story 16. 10 years ago I accompanied a friend to a crowded Boots store so he could have a photo of his pet dog printed onto canvas. He had to upload the photo via USB on the store computer, which was surrounded by families. He happily put the USB in, blissfully unaware that instead of being greeted by a picture of his lovable mutt on the oversized monitor, we and the many people around us would be greeted by multiple dick pics that he'd neglected to delete. Why he had dozens of photos of his own dong uploaded to a USB, God knows. But I couldn't question him instantly, seeing as by the time I digested what I'd seen, he'd already pulled the USB and ran from the store at full sprint, leaving me with the hordes of stunned grandmothers, disgusted parents, and upset children. Story 18. When I had my first period it ruined my dress at church. Bad enough, but my mom's solution was to make me wear one of my sister's diapers instead of giving me a pad or tampon. My mom gave me a spanking at a pool party with my whole class. Not like a pop on the bum, an over-the-knee humiliating spanking. She is a religious nut. Story 19. Stuck in a really bad traffic jam. Hurricane Rita evacuation. https://www.crin.com. News of Houston, Texas. A Houston article. Hurricane Rita anxiety leads to hellish fatal. 6,521,994. PHP in Houston. I had been in the car for almost 12 hours. It was over 100 F all day and had been drinking much water. Unsurprisingly, nature was calling, quite urgently. Unfortunately, I was in a HOV lane with concrete barriers in the middle of the freeway, so pulling to the side of the road was not an option. Since the traffic was basically move 100 feet, wait 20 minutes, repeat, I had to bow to the inevitable. I thought I could discreetly use an empty soft drink can while traffic was stopped. Unfortunately for me, the 12 ounces can wasn't remotely large enough for my needs. So that's how I ended up peeing in front of hundreds of my fellow evacuees in the middle of a Houston freeway, in the middle of the day. Turns out I wasn't the only one in that predicament. Being the trendsetter that I am, lots of others followed my lead. So after parents made me sleep on a couch in the den while she slept upstairs in her room. We were both in college and used to doing what the fuck ever whenever. Wanted to get frisky, so we drove out to the boardwalk at night and started getting it on. Some homeless dude walked by and started obviously watching, super embarrassing when we noticed and drove away quick. The flight attendant started to tell me to take my seat while we landed, but she saw the look on my face and let me make my way to the front lavatory. I didn't throw up, so I unzipped my pants and pulled out my junk to pee, then felt nauseous again and rested my head against the wall as the plane made its bumpy landing. I was first off, and I was in a bad mood and embarrassed, so I walked briskly to baggage claim by myself. Then waited for my bag. Then met my friends, one of which put his arm around me and said, "Your dick is out." I walked through a busy airport. Story 23. My husband, but at the time boyfriend, and I went to JCPenney or Macy's or it's something like that, a department store in a mall. We were in high school and I was looking for a swimsuit to wear to a pool party our friend was having, as mine was old and faded looking. He came into the dressing room area so I could ask what he thought of this one, because I didn't want to walk out onto the sales floor like that. Well, I guess it was a good one cause he pushed me inside the dressing room and we could not help ourselves. We were the only ones in the dressing room but were being as quiet as possible. Until it was over. I queefed so loud. So loud, guys. Not just once but multiple times, which made me start laughing, which made it happen more, which... Circle. Yeah, no. He is doing his best to stifle his laughter. We were not the only people in the dressing room. A woman a few doors down goes, yeah girl. Yeah. And? Farts. Maybe? Really loud also. We came out and did the walk of shame as there was a small crowd of employees standing around trying to find out who the fart locker was. I could have died. Was walking up Broadway from job number 1 to job number 2, tried to fart, and massively shit my pants, basically emptied my entire colon. Had to walk another half a mile in shit-filled underwear, got to job 2, hit the men's room, underwear were a total loss, cleaned up, somehow managed to get nothing in my trousers, but had to free ball at home on the subway in wool suit pants. In July, I don't have words to describe that itch once the sweating started. Probably my worst NSFW experience ever. Story 26. Uncontrollable farting from eating so much Mexican. It was like farting non-stop and then people around me were running and screaming. Story 27. When I was 9 I hated wearing skirts, dresses, but my mom had insisted I wear a skirt to an event. We stopped to get petrol and I ran in to use the loo. When I came out this young guy came running after me to tell me I had my skirt tucked into my knickers. I was mortified. Not sure it qualifies as NSFW, but it was an eyeful of child bum for a bunch of people just trying to pump petrol and grab snacks. Story 29. Long story short, I was a European dude in Brooklyn cause I dated an American girl at the time. We visited my ex-GF's grandma who lived there, and when we left grandma's apartment, I nearly shat myself on the street because I got a sudden hardcore diarrhea attack. I ran several blocks and asked in whatever shop I could find if I could use the restroom until some Mexican deli or whatever it was allowed me to go. It was literally a second before my sphincter muscles would have given in. More embarrassing than NSFW, but still a terrible experience, LMAO. Story 30. I was at a company Christmas party, pretty ritzy. I was 22 years old, and my boss's wife came up to me and grabbed my nuts in front of like 5 or 6 coworkers and said she wanted me that night. It got majorly awkward, and I ended up just leaving. She was pretty drunk, but people need to know when to go home,